and we are live another edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. I am one of your co-hosts, Nicholas Pavona, joined alongside, as always, by my co-host Andrew Johnson. Johnson, we are at the final week of the regular season in the college football season, and it's probably my most favorite week of the entire college football year. It is rivalry week. Try saying that 3 times fast. It's rivalry week this week. I said it wrong again that time. But nonetheless, huge games this weekend coming up. A lot of scenarios to talk about as well in the college football playoff. Just as of a couple minutes ago, we found out the recent college football playoff rankings. This will be the second to last regular season playoff ranking. Next week will be the last ranking for the CFP, and then Selection Sunday will be December 7th. That's when we will find out who the 12 teams will be playing for this year's national championship. But Johnson, a very loaded slate this week in college football, and a lot to talk about here on the show tonight in terms of what we saw last week in college football, breaking down the CFP poll, and then going into a very loaded slate this week 14.
Selection Sunday? I thought that was in March.
It's a lesser version of Selection Sunday. I still enjoy it.
Yeah, and both of them are rigged, so that's good to know.
Well, we all know about the NCAA. We all know about the NCAA. You and I have, of course, been enjoying Feast Week in college basketball, and for college football, with these rivals playing each other this week, a lot of big games that will impact who makes it to certain conference championships, who probably punches their ticket to the college football playoff. A lot to talk about, for certain conferences, what teams can get there to the championship game, what teams can get to the college football playoff just by winning this week. So I think the best way to start this week's show is breaking down the recent poll that just came out a few minutes ago that we just saw. There's not really much movement in this poll. It's pretty much similar to what we saw last week. The first 5 teams are all the same teams that we saw last week, that being Ohio State, Indiana, A&M, Georgia, and Texas Tech. Oregon moved up a spot by beating USC, pretty much solidifying their spot in the CFP unless they have some really bad catastrophe this weekend against Washington. And if they win that game, of course, also, then they would need either Ohio State or Indiana to lose this weekend. And then Oregon would play in the Big Ten championship game. So we'll see what happens with that. If I'm Oregon, I probably don't want to play in it because you're just trying to solidify your spot regardless. But the Ducks get the win. Ole Miss does move down a spot to number 7. Big game for them this upcoming weekend. We know what's also going on off the field with their head coach. We're still waiting to see what's going to happen with him. In the next couple of days, they're saying Friday is the date to see because I think he's holding a press conference to announce his future. Don't know what to buy into that yet, but I'm sure we'll talk about that next week. Oklahoma, number 8. Notre Dame, number 9. Alabama, number 10. And then you have BYU, number 11. Miami, number 12 now. Some other movement. We saw Michigan move up 3 spots, number 15. Texas is number 16. USC losing falls to 17. You have Virginia, Tennessee moving up a spot. Arizona State moves up 5 spots. Some newcomers as well in SMU and Pittsburgh from the ACC. Georgia Tech lost to Pittsburgh this past weekend, so that allows not only the Panthers a chance at the ACC championship game, but now pretty much almost guarantees Georgia Tech more than likely not making the championship game and probably not making the college football playoff either. So a tough way to end what's been a pretty good year for the Yellow Jackets. Tulane still holds that group of 5 spot. They stay at number 24. Arizona rounds out the standings at number 25. So, like I mentioned, not much movement, nothing too crazy that we saw from last week. But what were your initial thoughts about this poll, Johnson?
Yeah, I hate this poll. They move up Oregon for absolutely no reason whatsoever, and they penalize Ole Miss. Yeah. They're giving Ole Miss, if they lose, they're out. That's what it's telling me here. If Ole Miss loses, they're out of the playoffs, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned that last week. I said if they lose to Mississippi State, I don't think they're guaranteed to make it.
No, I don't think they're going to make it because I think if they lose, Notre Dame easily goes up to 8. But my question is, what if BYU and Miami win this week? What happens to Notre Dame? If Alabama, BYU, Miami win, what happens to Notre Dame?
I don't think they'll move the poll for any of those teams. I think what it comes down to this is, so let's say if that happens, right? Miami, of course, is in the big spot because they play Pitt this weekend. So that would drastically help Miami. If I had to guess, if all those teams win, Miami probably jumps BYU. I don't think they'd jump Alabama. The whole conversation has really been with them and Notre Dame because remember, they beat Notre Dame earlier in the season.
And that's what I'm trying to say here because all these teams are favorites this week. So that's what I'm trying to say. If you're going to move down Ole Miss because Oregon gets a decent win and they're and they're not playing,
I'm not going to lie.
It's crazy to me.
If I'm Notre Dame, I'm not feeling too good right now. I think it's really you don't really have the quality win. The best quality win they have is USC, and that's not really saying much. They don't really have the wins to necessarily show that they should be in. And Miami, if they beat Pittsburgh, and let's say they beat them in a convincing fashion, then you more than likely are going to see Miami maybe jump Notre Dame in the polls. And if that happens, then if I'm Alabama, I'm also worried because you're currently I believe they're technically the last team in. I'd have to double check in terms of the bracket.
They are the last
team
in.
So they would be the last team in because Miami, technically, they're counting as the conference champion, which still doesn't really seem like they're going to make the ACC championship game. It would have to take a lot for them to get there. But Bama is the last team in. So if I'm Alabama, I'm not too certain about my spot either. And they're not necessarily guaranteed to win either this weekend. I think they have a really tough game on the road.
No, but definitely not guaranteed.
It's never easy. Obviously, none of these games are guaranteed for the most part. I think when it comes down to it, if Miami beats Pitt, and obviously Notre Dame wins, Alabama wins, I have a feeling if I'm Notre Dame, I think you might be in trouble. I think your best bet is hoping Bama wins, and then they have to go to the SEC championship game, and they have to win that game because if Bama loses the SEC championship game, there'd be a 3-loss team. I don't know if the committee would penalize Bama for losing 3 games, or if they would give them the benefit of the doubt because they have to play an extra game.
If Bama loses, they're definitely out right now.
Well, I'm saying if they lose,
if they make the championship game,
right?
I don't think they should be penalized.
That's my worry because I feel like they would do that, and that's not fair to Bama because they're making their conference championship. But I would not be surprised if they did that in the slightest. They've done that before, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's why I absolutely hate this playoff.
Look what happened. SMU we thought SMU. Remember that last year was going to have that happen to them. They had to play that extra game. They lost to Clemson, and they barely
devil's advocate now, right? Alabama wins. Let's say the entire top 10 wins, right? So there's no changes, right? And then let's say Vandy wins and Michigan wins. Do you knock out Alabama? Do you knock out Notre Dame? What do you do here?
It's tough. I think.
I'll be real with you. If Michigan beats Ohio State, Notre Dame should not be in the playoffs.
Michigan has to.
It's crazy. It's crazy because I feel like Alabama can win against Auburn this week, and they can make the championship, and they're going to lose, and they're going to say, "Well, Notre Dame has one less win, yada yada yada, one less loss, yada yada yada." So that's the justification they're going to give.
I don't know if Notre Dame's necessarily guaranteed at this point. I don't know if I'm Notre Dame. You have to basically hope for Bama to lose a game. You basically need a lot to happen. It looks like I wouldn't necessarily
want the top 10 to lose. You want Georgia to lose. You want Oregon to lose. You want Texas to win this week. You want a lot going on.
Yeah, you need some chaos, but then again, it depends. How much chaos do you really want? Because if I'm Notre Dame, I want Ohio State to win this week. Of course, you don't want Michigan being right there getting the win. You would want Texas A&M to win, in my opinion, because then Texas, despite losing 3 games, they would have to be in the mix despite that happening. And I think they would probably want Pitt to win because they just beat Pitt a couple weeks ago. If Pitt beats Miami, then that will negate any head-to-head thing with Miami and Notre Dame. That will negate it easily. And Pitt would only make it as an ACC champion. They wouldn't make it as a top 10 team. I think if I'm Notre Dame, you would like some chaos, but not a lot of chaos. I think you want
Notre Dame. You want Ole Miss and Oregon to lose, and everyone else to win. That's what you really want,
right? You want the teams. You want the Ohio States. You want the A&Ms. I would
they really
say
want the top 5 to be undefeated and then 6, 7 to lose. That's what they want. That's what they want.
Right. You need to find a way to have those top teams win, but you also wouldn't mind if Miami lost as well as maybe Bama losing too, because that would help. That would definitely help your case as well. But it's tough because with all the rivals in all those games this week, it's not. These are the games that these teams wake up for and are going to play like to their hardest. Like it's not going to be easy for Bama to go on the road to Jordan Hare. You've got A&M going to Austin to play Texas. Georgia, despite Georgia Tech falling last week, they have to go on the road too for their game. Ole Miss has to go on the road for their game. Like Oregon has to go on the road for their game. That's I think Ohio State too. Like I think that's the more interesting part of this week is that all these teams that pretty much are all more than guaranteed a spot in the CFP right now have a very tough road game this week, and they can't fall because if they do, then for some teams it will impact their ranking in terms of where they're going to be seated in the CFP, and for other teams it's going to knock them out of the CFP entirely. So there's a lot of interesting factors and scenarios going into the weekend that I'm looking forward to seeing how it all plays out.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be very interesting, and
I do have conference championship scenarios as well. We'll get into that. A little bit.
I just hope the committee gets it right. I mean, the bar's in the basement.
Yeah. No, I get it. I think I understood why you feel like that way because it was. I know from earlier in the season, everyone was pissed off that Notre Dame was still ranked after the 0-2 mark. I think that's the reason why everyone is just doesn't know if Notre Dame should make it or not because they started 0-2. To their credit, they've won their next 9. It hasn't been against the greatest of competitions, but they need teams like if Pitt beats Miami this week, it's going to help Notre Dame's case immensely. And especially if Pitt can make the ACC championship game too and win the ACC championship, then that's going to help Notre Dame a plenty. So
yeah, and the thing really is, we all have beef with if you give that resume to a blind 9-2 resume, and that's what it says on it, they wouldn't be anywhere. They would be nowhere near the playoffs. That's the main problem.
Remember last year we had. I don't remember how many games Indiana lost during the regular season. I think it was either 1 or 2. But remember, they had the similar thing where they weren't beating any good teams, and the good teams that they did play, they got destroyed by. Like I think they got beat up by Ohio State. That might have been their only loss. I'm not trying to remember.
Yeah, it was a 1-loss Big Ten team. That was like you can't.
But what I'm saying, no. I'm not comparing it. What I'm saying is they didn't play any good competition either. Everyone was complaining about Indiana making it last year. That was one of the biggest reasons why everyone was upset by Indiana making it because despite them being a good story, they didn't really beat anyone to get to that point. Like they didn't really have a marquee win. That's what I feel like is somewhat similar to Notre Dame's case because they don't really have the marquee win. The marquee wins are Pitt and USC. And only one of those teams can maybe make the CFP. And that's if they make the conference championship. So, I don't know. There's not much room for error for Notre Dame. They're basically one of those teams that you probably agree with this. They're one of those teams that are going to do their work, but they need to do, they have to watch from within. And they have to watch to see if they can even make it. Because it's not going to be guaranteed, even if they win this weekend, that they make the CFP regardless. Every other team, I think, has the scenario where you go into the week, you win, you make it. For Notre Dame, it's not a guarantee, even if they win this weekend, that they make the college football playoff. Because they're playing Stanford. It's not like it's, no offense to Stanford, it's just that it's not going to be a good win, even if you win the game.
I guess only time will be able to tell.
So, I'll go into the scenarios real quick for the conferences for this weekend. We'll start off with, I guess, the ACC, because that is a crapshoot right now with the way it's been going. You have 3 6-1 teams, that being Virginia, SMU, and Pitt. Right now, the projected championship game is Virginia and SMU. If they both win this weekend, they will make it to the ACC championship game. The winner more than likely will make the college football playoff. Pitt would need one of those 2 teams to lose this week to make it. And then for the 2 lost teams, they basically need all 3 teams to lose. And Miami, for their sake, has a chance to do that because they play Pitt. and then the conference would then be decided by strength of schedule from within. So that's something to watch for this weekend in the ACC. You look at, I guess we'll go to the Big 12 next. It's pretty much looking like it's going to be Texas Tech and BYU. They obviously win this week. They're in. They would also be in if Arizona State were to lose as well. Utah, who is still on the outside looking in terms of being ranked, they can make it with a loss by Texas Tech and a win by BYU and Arizona State. It would create a 3-way tie for the second spot in which Utah would get that chance. So it would take a lot for the Utes to get in there, but it looks all to be that Texas Tech and BYU make the championship. Big Ten's pretty much simple. Ohio State and Indiana, they win this week. They're in. They'll play each other as the number 1 and the number 2 team in the country. If Indiana loses to Washington, Indiana would still get in despite the fact if they have the tiebreaker with Oregon because they beat them earlier in the year. Michigan could get in. It would take a lot for them to get in there. They would need to beat Ohio State. Indiana's got to win. Oregon's got to lose. Same thing for Oregon. If Michigan beats Ohio State, then Indiana and Oregon get in there. So I won't go into all of them, but there's a lot of scenarios if Michigan beats Ohio State. There's even a scenario where Michigan could play Ohio State back-to-back weeks if they win this week and then both Oregon and Indiana lose. That's how crazy it is. SEC, same thing. It's pretty much, I want to say almost but locked up, but it looks pretty much locked up in that conference. A&M right now, of course, they're in the championship game with a win. If they do lose this week, they would be in a 3 or a 4-way tie, so that's something to note. They would make the title game still if both Bama and Ole Miss lose. Bama is in with a win and is out with a loss. Georgia gets in with a Bama loss or an A&M loss and a win. Ole Miss gets in if they win and both Bama and A&M lose. So that's just some of the scenarios in the Power 4 conferences. I won't go into the American and stuff like that, but that's obviously right now the American Conference is the Group of 5 conference to watch to see who makes the CFP at this point.
Yeah, I think you really summed it up well there, Nick. There's not much for me to add here, if anything. Before we head into our mushing hour, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I think the only other note was that we saw Oklahoma State got their head coach today. I'm trying to remember his name off the top of my head. It was
from
Eric
North
Dixon?
Texas.
Yeah, Eric Dixon, is that his name?
Yeah, and Eric they're doing it right too.
Eric Morris, yeah.
Yeah, they're doing it right too because they're gonna let him coach out. They're not putting any pressure like some other universities in the southern part of the United States that will not be named.
Yeah, well, yeah, because North Texas still has a chance to make the CFP. So they have to make they have to win the American Championship more than likely to get that. But yeah, big hire for Oklahoma State. Obviously, went a long time with Mike Gundy at helm. That ended poorly after this season, so we'll see if Morris and company get the job done next year in the Big 12, but we'll see how he finishes out this season with North Texas. But Johnson, I spoke about this in high regards earlier. It's a very loaded slate this week in college football, week number 14. If I'm not mistaken, what do we have? 10 games on the slate this week, if I'm doing my math.
We got a bunch.
I think it's 9. I think I did my math. I think I'm off by a game. Regardless, 9 games is a lot. So a lot for us to break down, and would you like me to start, or you want to start?
You can start us, Nick.
Well, what better way to start this week's rivalry week with the Egg Bowl on Friday afternoon? You have number 7 Ole Miss going on the road to Starkville to take on Mississippi State. The Rebels, a 7.5-point favorite in this game. The over-under for this one, 62.5. Could this be Lane Kiffin's final game coaching, Johnson? And if so, well, coaching with Ole Miss, I should say. If this is indeed his last game with Ole Miss, do the Rebels get the win and clinch their spot in the college football playoff?
If the rumors are true, and if he's heading to LSU from Ole Miss, I'm going to take Mississippi State plus 7.5. And it's going to be a damn shame, too.
Yeah, I am not liking the rumors I've been hearing about this. It really all seems more than likely he might be leaving to go to LSU. And if I don't know the certainty about my head coach, I can't really have any certainty that you're going to win this game. They are the better team on paper, but this is an absolute trap game of all trap games with the way everything's been going on off the field. I wouldn't be surprised if they lose this game outright and it costs them a CFP opportunity. Because remember, last year, they have these similar spots, not obviously with the head coaching stuff, but they lost games to Kentucky and stuff like that. It ruined their chance to make the college football playoff. I think they lose this game, but I'm going to take Mississippi State plus 7.5 in that matchup on Friday afternoon. What do we got next?
We have number 4 Georgia going into Georgia Tech, number 23 in the country. Georgia Tech, despite being at home, they are a 13.5 home underdog. Georgia 13.5 point favorite. 59.5 is the slated over under. Give me Georgia Tech to cover plus 13.5, but Georgia wins this game.
I'm going to take Georgia to cover the 13.5. Georgia Tech has not looked good these last couple weeks. Their defense also has been very concerningly bad the last couple of weeks, too. The North Carolina State game, the Pitt game. I think they even played bad against Boston College in between that, too. Their defense has just been looking horrible these last 3 weeks. And you got the Georgia Bulldogs coming into town. Georgia, I mentioned earlier, has a shot to make the SEC championship game, but they'll need some help along the way. Georgia Tech, as I mentioned, they don't even have a path right now to the ACC championship game. They need pretty much all 3 top teams to lose this week to even have an opportunity to do that. I'm not getting good vibes from them either. I wouldn't be surprised if this might be Brent Key's final game coaching for this Yellow Jackets team. He's been rumored to be one of the candidates for a lot of these head coaching openings. So something to know, something to watch out for in the next weeks. I'll take Georgia to cover the 13.5. I'm not getting a good vibe from the Yellow Jackets these last few weeks in that matchup. How about this next game, John? It's a big one in the SEC. Number 3 Texas A&M going on the road to take on number 16 Texas A&M, a 2.5 point favorite, 51.5 the over under.
I went back and forth for this game all week, and I'm taking Texas to cover. Texas plus 2.5. This is a must-win game for the Longhorns, and it's not really a must-win game for the Aggies. They're kind of already set, making the playoffs. I mean, the Aggies are playing for seeding right now, and I think the pressure is going to be too much. Texas will not crack under pressure. They will be back temporarily, and they will win this game. But other than that, I can't guarantee anything.
Yeah, I think it comes down also. It's a road game on a Friday night. I believe it's Friday night, right? This game is 7:30.
It is a Friday night.
Just want to make sure. Road game Friday night. You're at Austin. The obviously A&M. The only thing that scares me for them is that they lose this game. It has nothing to do with them making the college football playoff. They make it in, but the SEC championship game, if they really want to win it, might get out of their reach if that happens. If A&M does lose, I mentioned the scenarios already. Georgia would get in if A&M lost, and they get the win, of course.
Be crazy that they lose one game at the end of the season, they just miss it. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's how the SEC's been this season. Ole Miss and Georgia are hoping for the Texas win. And you mentioned it, Texas, this is a must-win because they're not necessarily guaranteed to make the CFP even if they win this game, but they could make it a really strong case to be going up against, as you mentioned earlier, Notre Dame, to maybe who should deserve to get that last spot. That could be the big conversation it happens if Texas wins this game. I do think Texas does win the game, though. I mentioned this a couple weeks ago when I forgot what game we were talking about. I think it was A&M against LSU at that point. I think A&M had a great year, but something just tells me that this road game is going to get a little bit too much for them. The Texas defense is going to, I think, just do just enough to hold on and win this game and keep their CFP hopes alive. So I've got the Longhorns to cover the 2.5, and I do think they win the game outright, though. But A&M is still nothing to be worried about. They'll make this out the college football playoff regardless of what happens in that game. What do we got next in the SEC?
We've got the Iron Bowl. Number 10 Alabama going into Auburn. Alabama is a 6.5 point favorite on the road. 46.5 is the slated over under. Give me Bama to cover minus 6.5. They're going to win the Iron Bowl. They're going to make the college football playoffs, and they need this game more than Auburn.
I've got Auburn plus 6.5. I'm going to take the Tigers. They've got a true freshman quarterback playing in his second career start. Of course, that's something that may be good, may not be good. Their defense has been really good, though, Auburn. That's been the best thing, the biggest thing about Auburn this season. Their defense has been good. Their offense sucks. If their defense can do just enough to push around with Alabama, because we've seen what's happened with Alabama against teams that play really good defense. You saw it a couple of weeks ago with Oklahoma in that matchup. The Sooners pretty much just beat them up in that game. If Auburn can beat up Alabama in this game, Auburn, I think, really could pull off this upset and could really create a wrinkle where Bama misses it, of course, obviously with the loss. But you might start wondering if Kalen DeBoer may be on the hot seat if they lose this game. I wouldn't even be shocked if that does happen. So I've got the Tigers to cover this game. Do not be surprised if they pull off the upset and win this game outright. So give me Auburn plus 6.5 in the Iron Bowl on Saturday. Next game, we have LSU at number 8, Oklahoma. Oklahoma 10.5 point favorite. 36.5. Is that the right number, Johnson? 36.5 is the over-under?
That is the right number. That is the right number.
Really? Wow. Yeah, I guess with the way these offenses have been, I guess it makes sense. But what do you got for this game?
That's a great question, Nick. I'm going to take Oklahoma minus 10.5.
Yeah.
That's the easy one.
The number's so low, just give me the over too. I might as well take it.
There you go.
36.5. I might as well just take it. Give me Oklahoma minus 7.5 too. LSU just sucks. They'll be having a party on Saturday when Lane Kiffin's officially announced the new head coach.
What a shame. Even in this era of college athletics where you can have an infinite budget at university, coaches will take the easy way out. You really hate to see it.
Yeah. It's a scummy way to do it, but it's all signs point to that probably happening. But hey, we might be getting, we might be getting fooled. He might just come out on Saturday and say, I'm coming back.
I hope he does. I really hope he does. All right, the next game we got number 6 Oregon on the road against Washington, unranked. But Oregon is a 6.5 point favorite. Less than a touchdown favorite on the road. 51.5 is the slated over under. Give me Washington to cover this wacky spread at home.
I like that wacky term. I like that, Johnson. I like that. Yeah, I thought they were gonna potentially lose last week to USC. That just never happened. You and I caught a little bit of the Washington UCLA game. I mean, that was just a dumpster fire of a game for UCLA purposes. In terms of this game, I'm going to take Washington plus 6.5 too. I think there's going to be a lot of chaos this weekend. I think the chaos is going to happen a lot. I don't know if they win this game, but I do think Washington's going to make this interesting to Oregon standards, which they're not going to like because they're trying to pray that they make the CFP. A loss could probably knock them out. So give me the Huskies to cover the 6.5 in that matchup. Big game in the SEC once again, Johnson. For one team, if they want to make the CFP, they've got to win this one. It's number 14 Vanderbilt at number 19 Tennessee. Tennessee, a 3.5 point favorite. 65.5 the over-under. Good Lord.
This has to be Vandy plus 3.5.
I hate to break it to you. I'm not going that way.
I am, so.
I got Tennessee minus 3.5. Going to Knoxville. It's just another. Like I said, all these teams that are in the playoff spots
are you going to go against New York's SEC team, Nick?
Yeah, why was that a thing?
What do you mean? It's always been. I hear people talk about Vanderbilt football all the time on the subway.
Yeah,
coming back from work, I hear it all the time.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think just because you reminded me of that, now I'm more than confident taking Tennessee in this game. I love the Diego Pavia, storyline. I've really enjoyed his time the last 2 years and getting this program to some relevance, but I just think I think there's just so much to overcome going into Knoxville and trying to knock off Tennessee in a 3:30 kickoff. I got Aguilar and Tennessee getting the win and ending Vanderbilt's college football playoff hopes, unfortunately. So we'll see. What's our next game?
We have number 12 Miami going into Pittsburgh to take on number 22 Pitt. Miami is a 6.5 point favorite on the road. 51.5 is the lead over under. Give me Miami to cover here. Minus 6.5.
Yep. Pitt has been talking about how these games mean so much to them, right? This just seems like such a letdown spot where they get beat down by Miami. And everyone, this is all kind of setting up for Miami to get the win and be tied at 6-2, but Virginia and SMU probably, end up winning this weekend and they miss out on the ACC championship. So Miami right now is in a spot where they might have to try to make it as a a last team in spot, and that might not be enough for them. They have to make the championship game, in my opinion, to get in, but we'll see. I'll get the Canes minus 6.5. I'm still irked by Pat Narduzzi's comments from a few weeks ago. So, yeah, that's my take on that. And then the final game. It's, of course, the big game. They call it the game, Johnson. Number 1, Ohio State at number 15, Michigan. Ohio State, 9.5-point favorite, 44.5 the over-under.
Historically, in the last half decade, Michigan has dominated this game. I do not think they will win this game. I think Ohio State finally gets the monkey off the back. Coach Bourne on third base gets the monkey off his back, and they win. However, Michigan covers. Michigan plus 9.5.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because 15 out of the last 20 years, Ohio State's won this game, but the last 4 have gone to Michigan. And including last year.
That's what I said, 2020s.
Yeah.
That's what I said, only the 2020s.
And it's funny because last year was the year for Ohio State. We talked about it last year. They were a 3-touchdown favorite in that game. Michigan's offense was one of the worst offenses in the country. And Michigan won the game, despite throwing for like 60-something yards passing in that game. So, if I'm Ohio State, I'm a bit worried. You haven't been able to beat them. You got to find a way to win this game. It doesn't, obviously going to impact where you are in the college football play if you're making it regardless. But they cannot go into the CFP for the second straight season after losing to Michigan and try to win a national championship again. It worked once. I don't think it could work twice. I'll take Michigan to cover the 9.5, but they've got to win this game because if they don't win this game, they won't have the same positive vibes they had going into the playoff last year that they will have this year if they lose to the Wolverines. But a tough road game because they're going to Ann Arbor. That's never easy to win at. So
absolutely not.
I'll take the Wolverines plus the 9.5. And remember, I took Michigan to make the CFP, so please don't make me look like a fool. Maybe they pull off the upset and get in with the win over Ohio State. But that will do it for this week's edition of the Mushing Hour. Johnson, any final thoughts before we wrap up this week and then recap the final week of the regular season next week?
Go Aggies.
That's a great way to end it. And of course, as well, I would like to say happy Thanksgiving to all of our college football fans here from Johnson as myself. And we'll see how this week unfolds. We'll recap it next week. We'll recap the final regular season college football playoff poll. And then we'll get ready for next Sunday's selection show that will break down who will be the 12 teams making it into the college football playoff. But that's going to do it for this week's edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. We are 13 weeks into the regular season of the college football year. We are down to the final week, rivalry week. I did that time right, Johnson. Big games, the Egg Bowl. You have Ole Miss and Mississippi State, Georgia and Georgia Tech, A&M and Texas, the Iron Bowl. You have Vanderbilt, Tennessee, Miami and Pittsburgh, and of course the game between Ohio State and Michigan. We'll recap all of those games as well as the college football playoff poll next week here on the show. For Nicholas Pavona and Andrew Johnson, this has been the All Gas No Break Sports Show. Have a great rest of your week and happy Thanksgiving.